So if you're happy to do prostrations, we'll do them. Remembering it's all about not worshipping. I know I keep saying this, but it's really important. It's really about recognizing the qualities of the three jewels and remembering that it shines a light on the qualities that we have. Once you were like me, may I become like you. This is, and then if you've taken refuge, this is a way of showing deep respect, deep respect. But if you're not happy doing it, then you don't do it. It's all about the mind, right? Okay. And we face the altar, that's good. So bringing together the left hand of wisdom and the right hand of method. And the strongest method we have is bodhicitta, what we'll be focusing on today. Strongest method, wisdom. Left hand of emptiness. Bringing together bodhicitta, the strongest methodology there is for anything that's happening in the world today, bringing it together. And then what we hope is, what you're aiming for, is to have both of these in one mind. At the moment we can't do it, but now we're planting the seeds to bring both of these things together in our mind at the same time. We have the capacity for that, not yet, soon. O Namo Manjushri, Namo Sushri, Namo Uttamashriye Soha. O Namo Manjushri, Namo Sushri, Namo Uttamashriye Soha. O Namo Manjushri, Namo Sushri, Namo Uttamashriye Soha. May I quickly become Guru or Buddha and lead each and every sentient being into his realm because of these merits. This last bit we don't tend to say out loud. You say it inside, but I tend to say it so that people get into the habit of hearing it. Magic, thank you. So can I check that you all have the prayers for the beginning of the teachings? There are spares.
Who needs a spare?
Anyone else need a copy? Excellent. There's spares here, that's magic. So just spend a minute or so just settling the body. Get your body into something that feels comfortable, a comfortable position. If you're sitting on a chair, it's probably good not to lean against the chair, but to move your bottom quite far back and then your back straight, proud of the chair. If you're on a chair, feet firmly on the ground. There is a tendency in this life just to start straight away. This is what I want to do. But we are much wiser than that. We start to calm the body and sharpen the mind and then set the motivation. That's a wise thing to do. And so by half closing our eyes, this helps draw the mind inward. Without any effort, we just begin to notice how the body is breathing. Just notice the breath, imposing no rhythm at all, just notice. begin to scan the body from the crown of the head to the tips of the toes, merely noting any areas of tension. Once noted, continue to examine the body, internally, externally, note tension, move on. And now we notice that on the out breath, the tension that we noted begins to flow from the body naturally on the out breath. And feel that tension just easing away from the body on the out breath. Notice how much more relaxed your facial muscles are, how soft the area around the eyes, how spacious the space between the eyebrows. Notice how relaxed your shoulders have become, dropping now to a much more comfortable position. Feel how relaxed your abdomen is and how it rises and falls with each in breath and out breath. Each in breath and out breath. And keeping the body relaxed, keeping the tummy soft and the shoulders relaxed. begin to notice now that with each in-breath, your mind is becoming brighter, happening naturally on each in-breath. On each breath, inwards, your mind becoming sharp, clear. And now we place this sharp, clear, bright mind at the entrance to both nostrils. And we become fully aware of the sensation of the breath there. Fully aware of the sensations of each in-breath and out-breath. Each in-breath and out-breath. And now with a relaxed body and a sharp, bright mind, we generate a strong, positive motivation for the day. And when it's clear in your mind, just shift your focus to that and hold it. To deepen that motivation, if you're happy to do so, we can do the prayers at the beginning of the teachings. If you're not happy to do the prayers, this is not a problem. Just hold that motivation in your mind. Does everyone have the prayers? To the Founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to the attained, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the Founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the Founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond,
the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, forms supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme sides, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Saviour having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one born to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits, may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the 4 faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. So welcome. Thank you for giving up your Saturday. It was brilliant. So I hope you make the whole day, but if you don't, I fully understand. I do. If you have remembered to bring with you this particular handout, which is the contents page, the Lam Rim, if you have it, it would be quite good to refer to it now. I have a spare. Not to worry if you don't worry about it. But if you've got it, it would be useful. On the last teaching session, people were asking about how do we deal, from a Buddhist point of view with the horrible things that are happening in the world today. And this is a very relevant question. Because whatever your philosophy is, however your mindset is set, it has to be able to deal with these things that are happening. And to every question that was put in relation to that, I would say the same thing, bodhicitta.
bodhicitta. From a Dharma point of view, there is no greater antidote to the world's problems, however they manifest, than bodhicitta. Nothing. But what we're going to explore today, although we can't go into great depth, we're going to see is this. Is it possible that what I said last time, that bodhicitta is the answer? Is that true? Is it possible that if I study this concept, this idea, this mind, if I develop it, if I discuss it and I meditate and eventually it becomes a primary mind, will this answer that question? Okay? And that's what we're going to look at, hopefully. Good. Now, we started off this series of sessions looking at how the Lam Rim is laid out. And we said the Lam Rim is laid out as the fourth noble truth, the path. This is the path we follow to go from bondage to freedom, going from suffering to genuine happiness, really. And there's two types of freedom. One is the freedom of liberation, and the second is the freedom of enlightenment. So there's two different types of freedom. So that's good to hold in your mind. The other way you can look at all these teachings is you can say, as Lama Tsongkhapa said, all the Buddha's teachings can go into three baskets. They can say, many of the Buddha's teachings look at bodhicitta. No, let's start with renunciation. Renunciation, right? The second group of teachings, all of these teachings, you can call bodhicitta. And the third group of teachings, you can put them all in a basket and call them emptiness. It's just another way of looking at. These are not different teachings, it's a way of grouping. And it's a way of grouping for a particular reason. And renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view Lama Tsongkhapa presented it like this because it was the three principal aspects of the path. Renunciation is about giving up, as it sounds, but it's giving up things that are causing us pain, that's keeping us suffering. Another definition, and a better perhaps, of that type of thing is called definite emergence. Renunciation means definite emergence in the Dharma. Emerging from what? Emerging from the quagmire of suffering, of the eight worldly dharmas. Now, what does that do? Well, it means that we start living in a particular way, ethically, particular type of ethics. Why? To calm the mind. To calm the mind. Once the mind is calm, then you can start to do things with it. You can start to reveal and develop your bodhicitta. And if you marry bodhicitta with emptiness, you have enlightenment. You have enlightenment. That's important. Now, when we look at this, if you remember, we talked about three scopes. So you've got the small, medium, and great scope. Now, if you give Westerners this choice, and I say, which one are you? Very few of us will say small scope. What we tend to think is, well, I think I'm medium going on to great. But actually, it's not like that. It's to do with aspiration. What's our aspiration? What's the motivation behind most of the things we do? So in the small scope, what you have is an idea of understanding continuous mind. What you're aiming for is a better rebirth. A better rebirth. Sounds selfish, eh? No. Why not? Why wouldn't you want a better rebirth? And so the type of teachings, the type of understanding, the type of meditation, the type of development is found in those areas of the small scope. And we all need those. We need those. Then you have people of medium scope. Again, you're looking at aspiration, motivation. What are you aiming for here? This is an individual who says, it's not enough to have a better rebirth. I understand continuous mind. It's not enough to have a better rebirth. What I need is to be totally liberated from samsara. Totally. I've had enough. Really. This is the mind that says, I've really had enough. This is ridiculous. It doesn't matter, even if I'm born in the very best of situations. I'm still going, I live long and I'm going to suffer. What's the point? I want out. They want liberation. For them to have that, they need all the understanding and the realizations of the small scope, as well as those on the medium scope. Then you have the great scope. So the great scope, again, motivation, aspiration. This individual says, look, a better rebirth, not helpful, not really. And it's not enough that I just am liberated. What about everybody else? What about everybody else? The person who has got this aspiration wants to become enlightened for the benefit of every living being without exception. Not every human being, every living being without exception. That's the motivation for people in the great scope. What do they need to do that? They need all the realizations of the small scope, all the realizations of the medium scope, and then they've got to start getting to grips with the realizations of the great scope. Why am I putting it like this? I'm putting it like this because we're going to be talking now about bodhicitta. And bodhicitta is the fuel, it's the energy. It's what makes the difference between individual liberation of the medium scope and full enlightenment of the great scope, bodhicitta. So we have to be kind of clear about what that is. So you've all heard the word, or most of you heard the word bodhicitta, right? So just think for a minute. Just think for a minute. What does it bring to mind? What does it, if somebody was to say to you, tell me one or two, not a definition, no, but when you think of bodhicitta, what comes to mind? Just sit with that for a minute, let it come up to your mind. There are some people who think I just do this so that I can pour my tea out. I just thought I'd mention that. You may have noticed a pattern. If anybody's recording this, I say that and then all you hear is tea being poured. Sad but true. So, most of us have heard the word bodhicitta. Most of us, something will come to mind. What comes to mind?
Compassion.
Compassion? Kindness?
Awakened heart.
Awakened heart?
6 parameters.
6 parameters? All true. Anything else? Okay. So let's start. There's many definitions of bodhicitta, right? Many. I like this one. Bodhicitta is the continuous, spontaneous wish to become fully enlightened in order to benefit all sentient beings without exception. Think of those words: continuous, spontaneous wish to become fully enlightened for the benefit of every living being without exception. So no pressure, right? No pressure there. But it's not the great scope energy for nothing. So whatever we think of bodhicitta, we need to up our game. Whatever we think it is, we need to up our game. It's like when a rocket goes into space. You have enough fuel to get it into low-lying orbit, doesn't it? Right? So it's escaped Earth gravity and it's circling around. That's like liberation. But if you want to go into deep space, you need extra fuel. The extra fuel is bodhicitta.
Mhm.
Now that we start thinking, okay. You could say, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama often says, that of all the 84,000, we like that number in Dharma, 84,000. I don't think anyone's ever counted them, but 84,000 teachings in the Dharma, all of them
essentially are bodhicitta and wisdom, all of them. That's what they all are. His Holiness Dalai Lama says, bodhicitta, what can I say about bodhicitta? And this is what he says. He says, bodhicitta is needed. It is actually what you need before you start the path, just as you start the path. You need it on the path. And then you need it when you take all the vows and practices. It is essential at the beginning of the path, the middle of the path, and the end of the path. You never lose it. Bodhicitta is what keeps the Buddhas actively engaged with us in order to benefit us. So it is the principal motivation, it's their primary mind, principal motivation to help us. In liberation, if you achieve liberation, yes, you do achieve liberation from suffering. But even the Arhat has no concept of you. The Arhat who has achieved individual liberation, they're not sitting on a cloud somewhere going, oh, it's a real shame for them. Oh, but I'm okay, right? No, that's not true. They have no idea about you. There's no contact with you. For them, you don't exist. They have cut all the links to samsara. And where are you? Samsara. But enlightenment, fueled by bodhicitta, of course, even when you become a Buddha, this is so active that they see you. They see you and they want to help. That's their only job. No holidays. Don't go to sleep. In what way can they help? Their Buddha nature and your Buddha nature, that's their pathway to you, and they don't forget you. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas don't forget you because of the power of bodhicitta. So powerful is bodhicitta that it is an all-in-one method to do two things that are absolutely important to us on the path. One, purification. And when we were talking about karma, and we're saying, well, there's all these different practices to do the four opponent powers in order to purify. Bodhicitta, powerful, so powerful. But it does two things, bodhicitta. It not only does it purify, if you can work with the bodhicitta motivation, not only does it purify negative karma, but you accumulate vast amounts of merit. Vast amount of merit. Now, sometimes in the West, we think, well, I don't think we should be thinking like that. I really should be thinking for other people, not me. Right? We have to stop that, really. We need to value who we are and what we can do. If you don't genuinely love yourself, you'll not genuinely love anybody else. And the great Shantideva, who is the last word when it comes to bodhicitta, he says, if you haven't even got the wish to free yourself, how on earth can you free other people? I'm just going to free you, but I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay and suffer, but I'm going to free you. Well, for one thing, that won't happen. For another thing, are they going to believe you? No. So you need to develop this really strong wish to be free. If you haven't got that, if you haven't got renunciation, bodhicitta does not flow. You cannot just wish for someone else to be free, but you're happy to stay where you are. So anything you can do to boost your bodhicitta for yourself, everything that you wish to boost for your renunciation, all along that path is very valuable. You need to develop it, and you are vitally important. You are vitally important. You are no longer second-class citizens. Okay? That's really important. So this idea of putting yourself down while lifting other people up, no. You and others become equal. You're just as important as others. So that's important. Now, right at the very beginning of Dharma practice, within a Mahayana sector, right, Mahayana, this bodhicitta, we start immediately. First day, people come and sit down, And I'm saying, you happy to do prayers? And they'll go, I don't know. I say, well, you don't have to. But if you would like to just say it, it'd be okay. So right from the beginning, bodhicitta. Now we say these prayers and people are going. So in the beginning we just say it. Do we mean it? No. But we become familiar with the idea and it starts to plant seeds in our mind. And then we start saying, well, I think there's a bit of value here. It's still artificial, right? Still artificial. Certainly not spontaneous or continuous. It's only artificial. After a while, when your meditation deepens, your study deepens, it becomes aspirational. You think to yourself, I couldn't do that, but I would like to be able to do that. So it starts to grow. And then one day, the aspiration is no longer there because that's your motivation. So don't wait until you really know what you're doing, and then I'll say, I'm doing bodhicitta. Don't do that. Fake it till you make it. Yes. And this is not new stuff you're learning here. Within your Buddha nature, the Dharma is very clear. You have this already. You just need to wake it up, and then develop it. And that's what these teachings do. It helps wake it up. This is what these teachings do. These teachings are not implanting all this. You've got it already. Okay. So this bodhicitta, we say it is the continuous, spontaneous state of mind that wishes to become enlightened for the benefit of every single sentient being without exception. It comes about through causes and conditions, right? It's not just hanging about as a concrete entity. Where did it come from? What gives birth in our mind to bodhicitta? It's all a path, right? So before there's bodhicitta, something gave birth to that. What gave birth to that? Now, what gave birth to that is what's called great compassion. Great compassion. Not ordinary compassion, great compassion. And this is the motivating factor. It wants to protect others, it wants to cherish them, and it wants them to become enlightened. Right? Great compassion. Great compassion is the mind that gives birth to bodhicitta. But everything has causes, and not everything, but most things have got causes and conditions, and certainly this. So great compassion. What gave birth to great compassion? To think about that. Unless we're already there, it will help to know what gave birth to that. What gives birth to great compassion is the mind of
The suffering of the others.
understanding the suffering of others, definitely. But you see, it's a Western concept, always going to others. You're right, but it's always going to others. But what about me? What do I need? For me, I need renunciation. What gives birth to great compassion is renunciation. Renouncing what? Suffering. That's why it's so close. Renounce it, and renounce everything that leads to it. So know the 8 worldly dharmas, know their results. And have you not had enough? Really? Give it up. That's what they're asking you to give up. When they talk about renunciation, they're not talking about getting your hair shaved and wearing nun's robes or monk's robes and going around beating yourself with a whip. It's not that. It's saying, look what's causing you pain and stop it. Renounce that. But what gives birth to renunciation? Something has to give birth to renunciation. What gives birth to renunciation is giving up attachment to that which harms us. Just giving up attachment. And to be attachment itself, and I'm using the word attachment, not desire, okay? Be clear about this. I'm using the word attachment. Giving up. What gives birth to the mind of renunciation is the mind of giving up attachment. Attachment to what? Today, what it is. Attachment generally. What gives birth to the mind that disengages from all of that, that gives up? All of the first scope, all the trainings in the initial practice. I think we truly need to think in this way. Instead of just thinking of this particular thing, bodhicitta, we need to think what gives rise. Because if you know the path that gives rise to this, you know where you are. And you see the value of the Lam Rim. The Lam Rim each step on this Lam Rim becomes more and more valuable to you becoming your own teacher. To you becoming not only your own teacher, but the own arbitrator of what's going on. You know with your mind, with your meditations, where you are, and you know how it links. This is real freedom. Learning the Lam Rim is pure freedom for you. Of course, teachings are important. Of course, teachers are important. But at the end, you walk the path. So what we're talking about? We're talking about initial scope. Get to grips with it. Get to grips with it. If you do, the mind of renunciation, you'll give up attachment. Really. Now remember, I'm not saying you'll give up enjoying life. In fact, you'll enjoy life more. I'm not saying you have to give up your car and your house and all. No. The attachment to it. And once you've got that, that'll give birth to renunciation. True renunciation. And once you know that you have the mind of renunciation to get free, then great compassion will grow in you. Because you'll think to yourself and you'll see life completely differently. So they tell me. But you see what's going on and you think, look what's going on. They don't know. If only they knew. Great compassion. The wish to protect, the wish to cherish, the wish to help them be free. And once you've got that, that gives birth to bodhicitta. So, in the text, there are many different ways to classify bodhicitta, many different ways. So the first, one of the ways they classify is conventional and ultimate bodhicitta. Have you heard of that? Conventional and ultimate. So what you're looking at, conventional bodhicitta, which is bodhicitta. It is the mind, it's a primary mind, and it's the mind that genuinely wishes to free others, to protect others, and to bring them to enlightenment. That's your conventional bodhicitta. Not much different from the definition. They classify it this way. But then you'll hear about something called ultimate bodhicitta. And you think to yourself, ooh, if it's ultimate, it's going to be better, eh? But how can it be better from conventional, which is bodhicitta? So now we're looking at wisdom. So ultimate bodhicitta is really the mind fueled by bodhicitta that sees ultimate reality of all things. So you could say that ultimate bodhicitta is really the wisdom of emptiness, but it's more than that. It's more than the wisdom of emptiness, for instance, of an arhat. Arhats understand emptiness, otherwise they would be free. The one thing that frees you is understanding how things exist. So arhats, people who've got individual liberation. But ultimate bodhicitta, the mind of ultimate enlightenment, sometimes called the heart of enlightenment, is the mind that sees everything as it is, the ultimate nature, but it's fueled by great compassion, by bodhicitta. So when you see the two divisions of conventional and ultimate, be aware that the ultimate is to do with the fuel of bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment fueled by this. And it's even more than that. It's actually both things in the same mind, which we can't do. Now, all the way along the path, you're listening to teachings, you're studying, you're meditating. For what purpose? To be free? Well, yes. But really what you have to do is change your mind. You have to have what's called realizations. There's a difference between intellectually understanding perfect human rebirth. And there's a difference in realizing it, getting the taste in meditation. It starts to alter your mind. And you'll know when that happens, because you'll see it all the way through. Now, mostly progress comes, real progress along the path, comes with realizations. Bodhicitta is so powerful. It requires such a fundamental devotion to the path, to your mind and the mind of every sentient being, that to progress, you progress so fast, even if you don't have general realizations of the path. Now, normally you need the realizations. Now, you need the realizations of bodhicitta. But so powerful as bodhicitta is, Shantideva makes it very clear, that to progress, to get great purification, to accumulate great merit, all you need is to understand it and admire it. Simply by understanding and admiring bodhicitta, the benefits start to flow. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to go for realizations. Of course you need the realizations. What I'm saying is, the minute you put this into practice, the minute you see its value, and you have some sort of intellectual understanding, that's important. From that moment, the value comes. And it doesn't stop. That's how powerful bodhicitta is. From the moment you value it, I like that. It seems like less work to me. Yeah. That seems good. That's a good bargain. I mean, I like that bargain. Just understand it, value it. And from that moment, you reap the rewards. Of course, you don't stop there. You get your realizations, eh? So just think about that and see if there's any questions for clarifying that. That's important, eh?
Did you say value and understand?
Understand, intellectual understanding. Dharma values very much intellectual understanding, very much. It's not the ultimate, but it's extremely valued. Because I think it's, why? If you intellectually understand something, you bring logic to it, then it's very hard for other people to fool you. There's a lot of strange people out there that teach you various things. If you don't bring your intellect to bear on this, you could end up following very strange paths. And if it's not intellectually secure, it will just take one horrible thing to happen to you. And it goes. It would just take some overwhelmingly wonderful thing to happen to you, and you'll forget it. But if you have some intellectual understanding, now I'm not saying that intellectual understanding is the end point, no. From intellectual understanding, you have to have a taste. And to have a taste, you often have to let go of the intellect. But you need that first. Someone once said to me it was a bit like learning to play the piano. And when you learn to play, there's all these rules and regulations which you need. And then as you go on, there's more rules and regulations, but they're finer. And they're based, you know, they're what these new rules and regulations are actually building up on what you already know. And if you're explaining to someone else, it's not a problem. Oh yeah, well, first of all, you learn these things and then you learn these things. But as time goes on and the more you practice and you start creating, you know, and it's like, where are the rules? You needed them to get there. Even the most gifted people. But after a while, so in meditation, sometimes you have to let go of the intellect, but not yet, and know when to do it. And you see when you're in this space and someone says to you, how did you do that? You go, well, very hard. So often in the Dharma, they'll say things like, a lot of this realization is beyond thoughts, words, and expressions. It's beyond that concept. But never make the mistake that you can jump to that immediately. Well, I mean, maybe there are some, but there are not many. Most of us need to walk a path. So we need to value each step along the path. But once you've got to that stage, you kind of don't need this anymore. The Buddha said it's a bit like trying to cross water. While you cross the water, you need the boat. Once you get to the other side, do you carry the boat with you? No. You leave the boat. See what I mean? But we value intellectual understanding. We value it. Okay. The value of bodhicitta was well known in India, and it was well known in Tibet, because in Tibet you had various teachers coming and teaching it, and all the rest of it. But in Tibet there came a time, I think it was about the 9th century, I think. Dharma was flourishing in Tibet because of the great work by many Indian teachers, including Padma Baba. But there came a time when there was a king called Dharma, and he really didn't like the Dharma at all. He hated it. And so he said he forbid Dharma, the practice of Buddha Dharma, in the country, totally lost it. He closed all the monasteries. Monks and nuns were forced to marry. And this lack of Dharma went on in Tibet until about 70 years after his death. It took that long before it started to grow again. When it started to grow, because they had lost a lot, there was a lot of errors came in. There were certain errors like animal sacrifice, for instance, not understanding the value of sutra, not understanding the value of tantra, thinking that if you practice sutra, you can't practice tantra, and vice versa. Some forgetting the value of ordination, getting the Dharma mixed up with black magic. There was all of this. And when Dharma started to flourish again in Tibet, a lot of people came from India, because Tibet was very a wealthy country, it had a lot of gold. And so a lot of teachers came from Tibet to teach them, Basically, they were after the gold. And so there was lots of these little enclaves went around, and they were doing various practices. And the king at the time, there's a whole story there, but basically he was very upset. And he said, this is not pure Buddha Dharma. And he sent emissaries to India to find the best teacher they possibly could. And finally, they managed to get a teacher called Lama Atisha. And when Lama Atisha came to Tibet, he was requested, please, we are a very stupid people. Could you please look at what's going on and compose a text that has all the teachings of the Buddha, that really is in the right order, that where people can achieve realizations, where sutra and tantra become very, very clear, where there's, black magic was seen for what it is, sacrifice is seen for what it is, so there's no errors. And that's when Atisha composed the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, the Lam Rim. He composed that. Now, at that time, there were people practicing bodhicitta, and there tended to be 2 schools and 2 lineages. And that's what I'd like you to look at now. Can I ask someone to hand this around? Thank you. So before Lama Atisha came to Tibet, were there people studying? Yes. Were there people achieving enlightenment? Yes. There were. But there was a lot of error. And Lama Atisha was a great bodhisattva. And he looked at the lineages. Lineages are very important in Tibetan Dharma, in all Dharma. Lineage is important. And basically they don't want errors and what I call fiddly bits to come in. They want pure Dharma. And there was really 2 lineages going on. Now the first lineage, and this lineage was a group of teachings, meditations, and realizations to achieve bodhicitta. So this first lineage was called training the mind. in sevenfold cause and effect. Right? Now look at that. What was it based on? It was based on recognizing all living beings as being our mother, remembering the kindness of all mother sentient beings, developing the wish to repay the kindness of all mother beings, developing affectionate love, developing great compassion, developing superior intention, developing bodhicitta. Right? So you had a group of people, group of monks, lineages that were practicing this. By studying, practicing, reflecting, did they achieve bodhicitta? Of course they did. Of course they did. Then you had a group of others who tended to train primarily in this aspect, training the mind in equalizing, exchanging self with others. So it started off with equalizing self and others, contemplating the disadvantages of self-cherishing, contemplating the advantages of cherishing others, and a practice called taking and giving, Tonglen. Lama Atisha could see quite clearly that both these lineages would do what they intended to do. But there would be a problem for many people studying one or the other. When His Holiness the Dalai Lama looks at these two lineages, he says both are equally good. But the real value came when Lama Atisha looked at it and he said, okay, this is good. But here's your problem. In the first bit, training the mind in sevenfold cause and effect, it is effective. Now, I'm not saying one's better, it is effective, but look what it's aiming at. All of those activities really depend on you seeing and valuing every living creature as being as valuable as your mother, right? Cherishing every living being as valuable as your mother, right? And that, based on that, many people can develop, and they do develop bodhicitta. But here's the slight difficulty. However much we value our mother, we value ourselves more. That's the truth of it. Okay? So what you've got here is still remnants of self-cherishing. Self-cherishing is not being addressed in this particular methodology. It's not being addressed. In a way it is, but not strongly enough. Training the mind in equalizing, exchanging self with others. Look what it's asking. Equalizing self and others, contemplating the disadvantages of self-cherishing, contemplating the advantages of cherishing others, taking and giving as practices. What's your main priority there? Well, here you're seeing all sentient beings as important as yourself, right? So can you see the difference? There is a difference. This is an absolutely perfect way of doing it. However, you need to be fairly sure of what you mean by self. Because the whole basis of this is a kind of equality, equalizing self and others, seeing others as important than you. But if you're not sure about self, if you've no real understanding of emptiness of the self, then it makes the rest of it a bit difficult. And so Lama Atisha said, if you really want to do this without, and really want to attack and hate every type of sentient being, really go for getting rid of self-cherishing, but nourish the love of sentient beings and understand self. That's why he combined the two. So I spent a bit of time on this because it's not just saying, well, he saw there was two, let's add one and one makes two, this is a combination and move on. It's not that. There was a reason behind this. And so he combined it. He combined it. And he combined it in such a way that you lose nothing and you gain everything. The heart is here of mother sentient beings. The heart is here. But so is the wisdom. So is the wisdom of emptiness. And look at the very first thing they start with. Equalizing self and others. Developing equanimity. Any questions about that? first step of a journey is always the most difficult, and it's always the most essential. You know, isn't it? I mean, there's that old Chinese saying, which I always get wrong, you know, when somebody says, how far is it to so-and-so? And it's like, well, you know, 10,000 miles and it'll take 1,000 years. And someone said, well, we better get started. That's a rare person that thinks like that, eh? Most of us would think, how long? Oh, no. How do we start? What's the platform? The platform is equanimity. If we really follow bodhicitta within the Tibetan setting, really you're looking at this combination. By the way, when Lama Tisha died, people went back to practicing in their different lineages, if they did, because that's the way we behave. Some people continue to do the combination, but mostly they went back. And it was really 14th, 15th century when the great Lama Tsongkhapa, he received all the lineages, the teachings of all the lineages. You can't within Tibetan Buddha, you can't alter anything unless you've got you can't do anything unless you've got the lineages. So Lama Tsongkhapa received all of these lineages, and he also recognized the value of Lama Tisha. And so within the Galupa school that he founded, it was founded on the principles of combining the two. So if you're within a Galupa school, this is how it's taught, like this, because there's no error. And it's not so much error, it's like you don't fall through the cracks of self-cherishing and not understanding the nature of self. So now we have to think about this. If I say here, the first step is equanimity, I want you to think equanimity, and what words come to your mind? Obviously, more time for tea. If you think the word equanimity, what comes to your mind? What type of words are coming to your mind? Balance,
Acceptance.
acceptance,
And of all qualities. Of all qualities.
of all qualities. If someone said to you, that was very equitable of you, what they say? Don't tell me they never say that. When you think of equanimity, what else comes to your mind?
Generosity.
Generosity can come. From a Dharma point of view, a broad idea of equanimity is a calm and peaceful mind in any circumstances. In any circumstances. It's a very broad view. Now, when people hear that, they sometimes think, well, that's a bit callous, isn't it? You know? And sometimes they think, does that mean I have to be indifferent? No, exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. An equitable mind is calm in every situation. It's got nothing to do with being indifferent. It's got nothing to do with being lethargic. It's got everything to do with being joyful and beneficial to yourself and others. Have you ever met someone who you think is quite like that, has a calm mind in whatever circumstances? If you haven't, how would they look to you? How would they behave? Try to get a picture of this person. This is a person that you consider has equanimity of some sort. Really, I would say I would give this label. Sometimes we can easily give a label of anger and all the rest of it. For this person, I would give a label of being equitable. How do they look? What does their face look like?
Smiling.
Yeah, joyful.
Very cheerful?
Yes.
A little bit cheerful?
Very.
Fairly cheerful? Okay. It's a mind.
We're looking for a Danish translation.
Oh, Danish, I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
No problem. No problem.
That helps.
So the person might look cheerful. They may not look cheerful. But what don't they look?
No.
They have a calm expression.
Mm.
Almost, the people I've met that are equitable, my teachers, for instance, they kind of twinkle. I don't know what it is. It's almost like they're on the verge of smiling, or they're smiling, or they just stop smiling. It seems to be like that, you know? And I used to think, how is this possible? And it's possible because with the mind of equanimity, there's no attachment. There's no hostility. And because that mind has got no attachment and no hostility, the joy, the love, the wish to benefit is flourishing. It's flourishing. It's flourishing. Because what stops all this? Attachment, hostility, aversion. Because that goes, the natural quality comes. You can see it. They're almost, I always see them, they're like on the verge. They're twinkling and they're on the verge. That's how they look. When we tend to think of equanimity and the way we behave with equanimity, tend to think about a kind of neutral feeling, yeah? You're not too happy, you're not too sad, you're kind of somewhere in the middle. We tend to think like that. Okay. And we call that equanimity. It's not the equanimity of bodhicitta, no. The equanimity starts with bodhicitta. It's sometimes what's called compositional, because we love words. Compositional equanimity. What does it mean? It means a mind. Think of, this is why it's important to try and visualize these people. What do they look like? And when you think of people, I mean, I think of people like Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and I see them. And it's like there. Where's the hostility? Not there. Where's the attachment? Not there. Where is this kind of twinkling, smiling, or on the verge of it, or just it's there? Flourishing totally. Where does that come from? Well, really, what you're looking at is a platform here of what's called compositional equanimity. The mind that is not extremely agitated for various reasons, or not a mind that's really dull for various reasons. Compositional, a kind of balanced mind. And more than just balanced, finely balanced mind. Finely balanced through what? Through single-pointed concentration and the practice of shamatha brings about this type of mind. So when we talk about compositional equanimity, this is your basis. For equanimity, we've not even got to bodhicitta, eh? We're still at equanimity. How wonderful that might be. And if that's a platform equanimity, to what? Now we're getting to what equanimity means within the Dharma. And that's immeasurable equanimity. Immeasurable equanimity. And this immeasurable equanimity is the mind coming from compositional balance, finely balanced, that recognizes the suffering of others. A mind that recognizes it and wants to do something about it. And this is where superior intention comes in. Because sometimes you can recognize and you think, oh, that's a shame. You know? And you see it, and you start suffering on behalf of other people's, which by the way is a complete waste of time. You know? But this is the mind now, finely balanced, recognizes the suffering and then wants to help. wants to cherish them, wants to bring something to the equation. And that's something, then that gives rise to the mind of its superior intention. And the mind of superior intention says, I will do something about it. Immeasurable. Immeasurable. Can't measure that. Not only is there nothing I won't do, there is not one sentient being I'll leave out of the equation. Immeasurable. Just love it. To get to that stage, there are many, many, many meditations and a lot of teaching, right? So what we're going to do now is thinking about, unless there's something I can clarify to this stage, is there anything I can clarify up to now? Or even repeat? We're kind of on the wavelength, yeah?
I think the only thing was great compassion. So compassion is the understanding of someone else's suffering, the cause of someone else's suffering, and wishing them to be free of that suffering. But then, as I understood it from Lama Zopa, that great compassion is taking responsibility for the liberation of someone else.
It has within it superior intention.
Yes.
It has within it superior intention. Now I'm going to do something about it.
Mhm.
Me, not anybody else. Because how do we start all this? We start all this by not even recognizing that we're suffering. We don't, no idea. None at all. Then you wake up and think, ooh. A bit further down the line, you see other people in exactly the same boat. A bit further down the line, you see that, to be honest, every sentient being is in that boat. You think, oh my Lord, that's a shame. Right? You're recognizing it, right? Not doing anything about it. So then comes a bit of a wish. Kind of wish that wasn't the case. I wish I was free and other people. And then it gets a bit stronger. You know, I would like really to be free. So from a wish comes a kind of strong aspiration. And I don't just wish I was free, I wish they were free too. Then the next step, I'm going to do it. Superior intention. You do something about it. All these things, it's worth seeing how they develop, looking at the causes and conditions, because then you know where you are on the scale of things. Not only that, but you recognize when you're achieving certain things. Sometimes you're at one stage and you're aiming for bodhicitta and you give up after a while because you think you'll never get that. But if you understand the path and the causes and conditions, you'll see your progress. You'll see it. So now we're going to do a meditation because so relaxing the body and calming the mind. The 2-breath method is very useful, where you breathe through both nostrils, allow the belly to fill, and then breathe out with a long out breath like this. So in that long out breath, you let your whole body simply relax. And you do that twice, and then you just breathe normally. So I'd like you to imagine, visualize if you can, that sitting directly in front of you are 3 people. in the middle is a complete stranger to you. Perhaps it's someone that you've passed in the street, someone that served you in the shop, but really, on the whole, you don't know this person. And they're sitting right in front. Now, to your left sits someone for whom you have a very strong attachment. And to your right sits someone to whom you have aversion, someone you don't like, someone that you would cross the street to avoid. You may even hate them, I don't know. But it's someone that you have that kind of aversion to. Now, spend a few minutes looking at each one individually. Connect with them. And ask yourself, why do I have these feelings towards these people? The feeling of attachment, the feeling of aversion, and the feeling of a kind of neutrality. Instead of just accepting these feelings, question yourself, why? Examine, why do I have these feelings? Now ask yourself the question, how true are these categories? Is there truth in my labeling these people in the way that I do? Is it true? And if you're feeling a bit confused and the answer is, well, of course it's true. Or, what does she mean? Don't worry, confusion's good. But is it true? Are these categories friend, enemy, stranger? Are they permanent or impermanent? is there a possibility that these categories are false? Is there a possibility? Consider that our attitude towards living beings is normally very unbalanced. And very quickly we categorize them as friend, enemy, stranger, without thinking really. This unbalanced attitude is the main obstacle to the Mahayana path. It keeps us circling in samsara. It increases our self-cherishing and self-grasping and our discrimination. And it reinforces with every breath the false idea of I, self, and mine. This is where attachment to me and mine starts. And all our negative delusions grow. Anger and aversion flourishes because of this. And we create our friends because of attachment, and they reinforce who I think I am. And we create our enemies by aversion, because these people do not concord with who I think I am and what I should be. They harm my self-cherishing, so I create my enemies. And as for the rest of the 7 billion people on the planet, well, what have they got to do with me? And we see them as a kind of permanent, unchanging, stranger entity. So anger and hatred grow. And we direct that towards who we decide is our enemy. And it's greed and attachment that fuels us helping our friends. And it's pure ignorance that ignores the strangers. If I continue to follow these negative states of mind, I will continue to create suffering for myself and others. No one else is doing this to me. And these mindsets are so prevalent in people that it endangers the whole earth. the whole planet and everyone on the planet. They're in danger from these mindsets. Our reaction is normally attachment, but attachment offers no peace, no solution, just more of the same suffering. Within your mind, allow the thought, I shall free my mind of this unbalanced attitude. This attachment and aversion and what this causes, I'm giving these up. I am going to make my priority now to be equitable in any situation. Of course, I'm going to fail, but that's my main force now. Allow that feeling to develop as strongly as you can. And when it is as strong as you can make it, stop the mental thoughts and just focus on that strong determination. And once again, we consider, in this lifetime, often a friend has become an enemy or a stranger. Often a stranger has become our friend or our enemy. How often those that we've loved and cherished have turned into being our enemy or have become a stranger just in this lifetime. And this has been true of all previous lifetimes. This is not new. And it takes not a lot for these categories to change. Not very much at all. There is no certainty. How fragile, how impermanent these feelings, these categories, how easily they change. How foolish our attitude of attachment and aversion and ignorance, how foolish to see something that is so impermanent and view them as being solid. Build up a feeling of, I will develop warm feelings and a warm attitude to all living beings. I will do that. And allow that feeling to grow quite strong I will develop this warm, equitable feeling towards others. And when it's as strong as you can make it, focus. If the mind wanders, just gently bring it back. Every time we get a teaching on anything in the Dharma, I don't know about you, but it kind of excites me and I want to rush out and do it. But you see, the first step is really to examine yourself. Not to beat yourself up, but where am I? Just where am I on the scale of things? Why am I doing this already? These questions that we never ask, never. Why do I label this person a friend? Truly. You see, the first answer is, well, they're just nice, aren't they? No, that's not good enough. Really examine, what is it about this relationship that makes me want to label that friend? Really. We have intelligence, look deeper. You want to expose it. You want a rationale. An exposition of the fundamental reasoning behind this course of action. Then when you look at the people that you don't like, the first response is, well, they're just not nice. Look what they do. Not good enough. That's only an immediate reason. With intelligence, we need a rationale. What is it? Go deeply. What is it? And the strangers, you're closer with them, you know. It's because they're doing nothing for you. I've always found it with this type of meditation to start with strangers, and you're not meant to, right? I find it quite useful to start with strangers because that tells me the truth. Why are these people labeled strangers? Because basically they do nothing for me. Ooh. It's a bit of a shock, isn't it? You just condemned 7 billion people on the planet to being strangers. I sometimes start from that end because that tells me some fundamental truths. And with those fundamental truths, I can look at this friends and enemies a wee bit clearer. And you really have to ask yourself, is this real? Is this really true? I mean, really, come on. Really, are these really, in and of themselves, friends? In and of themselves, strangers? In and of themselves, enemies? I mean, really, come on. Really true? Go deep. Then you say to yourself, okay, whatever I've labeled, is it permanent or impermanent? Our attitude is that it's permanent, but our logic tells us it's impermanent. Why the dichotomy? Ask yourself. These are important. Then you ask yourself, what is the result of all of this? And then, big shock. We realize that the result is that we create external enemies. We create external friends. And we create 7 billion strangers. They're not doing it. They're not walking around with on them, hello, I'm a friend. Oh yeah, right. They're not doing anything. You're doing it. If you do it, you can undo it. Is it worth it? Well, what are the consequences of continuing to do this? What could possibly happen if I stop? What could happen? And how would I behave? Do I want that? What would be the ultimate result of that? Would I be a boring, apathetic individual? How would I look? How would I sound? I love everybody. Would people love me? These people generate people to come to me. They're like magnets. You watch your teachers like magnets. People can't keep away from them. Why? Because they know. On one level, you've met these teachers, you know you're ever in His Holiness's presence, you're ever in Lama Zopa's presence, or any of the great teachers, you know that when they're speaking to you, they care about what you're doing. They really care. And you can pick that up on any level. Would you want to be like that? I would. Could you be like that? Of course. It's not a gift from anyone, it's a gift to yourself. You have it in your nature. What I'd like you to do now is discuss that. Right? In particular, if something comes up, what I call, maybe it's just the English thing, we say things like, yeah, but. I call it the yeah, buts, like, this is all very good. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, but, I'm particularly interested in the yeah, buts. Okay, is that clear? Okay.
Discuss the yeah, but.
Well, discuss how it went for you. Okay, but I'm particularly interested in things like, well, this is very good, and like, it looks good on paper. But it's those things. And when that comes up in your mind, that's what you deal with. Okay? Please, 15 minutes in groups of no more than 4. I want to hear a lot of yeah buts.
Okay.
Ik vond het een friend, cherishing attachment of knowledge.
Ja, men det må bare være. Jeg er ikke helt. Jeg tror, det er sådan for mig, at der er sådan jeg har overhovedet ikke. Jamen, det er jeg ved men det var først
Kort møde.
tror jeg, det kommer til, at der måske er
En eller anden årsag, så det har for at beskytte os mod fjenden. Ja, udover det øje. Altså nu er
det er ret. Ja, det er rigtigt. Så det kommer afsted. Ja.
Det må være meget avanceret. Jeg synes, det må være meget avanceret for at
at der er nogen, der Ja, jo. Ja, hvorfor har man så stærkt?
Og det er drøsen. Det er ikke acceptere noget i mig selv. Altså, det er sådan, at indrømme, at vi har samme politik, alle sammen. Vi har den samme motivation.
Det er eget arbejde.
Sandheden er bare rent nok. Men jeg vil ikke acceptere, at nogen andre har gjort det. Det er så langt. Men jeg ved, det er ikke. Altså, så igen, ikke se, det er jeg ikke. Jeg vil aldrig gå så langt hjemme. Der det kan gå ind. Så flytter over til vægten. Det er altid det er godt. Det er de gode sider. Hvad så hvis de er gode sider? Se det tidspunkt kan vende sig om. Det er ikke godt. Ja, præcis. Jeg var
mennesker, så kan man nogle ting, som flere, der har lige sammen.
Ja, man går
For meget.
Når man ikke se det, man vil ikke se på det. Og man ikke helst ikke sige det dårligt.
Det er det, vi alle sammen.
Jeg helst ikke sige det dårligt. Det er ikke. Præcis. Nogle gode sider, som jeg har set og lært. Det har de også. Måske det er altså gået væk.
Nej, det er jeg tager lov at have nogen, der siger som jeg garanterer for, at du ser med dig, som er
Man har en relation til hver enkelt. Det kan man ikke. Vi prøver Derfor det bliver mange ting, vi skal lære at være vores venner med sig selv. Alle de sider, vi har. Jeg har gjort det, fordi det er svært menneske. Jeg ser meget i dig.
Men det var meget godt.
Så jeg tænker på med nok så godt for en så tæt på, så kommer jeg en halv sekund. Igen, ikke komme af. Det er ikke der. Problemet er, at man sidder i toget, og jeg benytter folk mig til dig. Altså, jeg kan være ligeglad, så jeg kan også være ligeglad, hvordan jeg behandler jer. Det behandler dig dårligt. På vej til en jobsamtale. Derfor, altså, man skal behandle en hvert fald. Som hvis nu det var nej, men det er man skal sige.
Ja, der er langt vej igen, ikke?
Ja, ja.
Ja. Det er sikkert også en god idé.
Jeg mener selv, tid til livet har været derfor man kan se med genkendelse. Derfor vil det ikke være det. Vi er bange for at gøre det.
Altså, det er så der.
So by the handout, where it shows combining the two, and with developing equanimity being the very first step, look what it gives rise to. It gives you a running chance of recognizing all living beings are our mothers. And if you get that, remembering the past and present kindnesses, then developing the wish to repay them, then seeing that really there's so much similarities between you and others. I mean, it becomes easier to see that you could equalize yourself with others. And then the chances of contemplating the dangers of self-cherishing, contemplating the advantages of cherishing others, and then the really deep practice, which if you ever get the chance to really go into bodhicitta in depth, wonderful. This practice of Tong Len is taking and giving. Then developing the superior intention. All of this needs study, meditate, yes. But there's what you need to start, equanimity. Without that, now I'm not saying it has to be perfect. No, of course not. But you need to see where we need to start. That's important because that's your jump off point. So, how did the discussions go? What came up in the discussions? It's good to be quite fast at this stage because, as we know, lunch is approaching.
We had trouble connecting with the stranger. A few of us.
Uh-huh.
Like it was hard to picture the stranger in the mind.
Oh, really?
And yeah, for me it was.
Well, the thing
Because
about,
I cannot see the face of
No,
the
I
stranger
understand.
really. You know what I mean?
so if that's the case, then pick someone that you don't interact with, but you see fairly regularly. That's sometimes helpful. People that serve you in a shop, people that serve you in coffee, or someone that you pass kind of regularly, a doorman, whatever. But that's really telling you something, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's telling us something about not recognizing and not touching the
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
And 7 billion people, eh? If you think about it, how many people you call friends? I don't know about you, but I would run out of fingers and toes by the times I got to how many friends and people that I disliked. I mean, what about the 7 billion others? So we're not touching them. But so try to think of someone you don't really interact with, but you see. How many people have difficulty identifying someone they disliked? That wasn't a difficulty at heart. Because in some classes, people say, well, the thing is, Mary, there's nobody I really hate. I said, well, you know, it's all about continuum. Think about it. Hate is, if you've got someone like that, then use it. You know, useful. Someone's really done you bad, excellent. Then you've no problem with this meditation. There they are. But some people do have difficulty with this because they have an idea that they don't hate or dislike. It's very useful, this practice. So sometimes it's good to think of, I don't know, maybe a profession you dislike. Because I have had somebody say to me, there's nobody I hate, Mary. There's nobody I dislike. This meditation is not for me. And I'm going, right, do you drive a car? Yes. What do you think of traffic wardens? Traffic, I said, there you go. Choose the traffic wardens. You know. Because I think we can fool ourselves into thinking we're one way or another. Sometimes we're too heavy on ourselves and sometimes we're too light. But you could see his face just change. So, and nobody had any difficulty visualizing someone they were attached to. Why would you? This is a desire realm. We're really good with attachment. We know what to do with attachment. It's mine. So what came up in your discussion?
Can I add just to what you said before? I had the problem of, I don't know if it's a problem, but I keep placing the same people in the attachment and aversion.
Oh, really? Do they keep changing or?
No, I tried, because I think before you said the friend, stranger, enemy, you said like attachment in different versions.
Got it.
So maybe it was the words, and I somehow connected attachment to something negative. So I
That's pretty good.
was, I mean, if you had said someone I love, I would have
Oh, I see.
pictured someone else. So I
I
picked
try
a
not to
person
use
that
that.
I kind of feel
Yeah.
have an attachment to, but somehow that hurt me, so that I'm aware that this attachment is a difficult thing, and then that person also ends up in the aversion category.
I understand. Because it's because of not really coming to grips with what attachment means. So you're quite right, attachment is strongly active in aversion. But attachment is strongly activated in wanting, in our feelings of friend, our feelings of people that we love. And that's sometimes harder to find, but it's there, strong.
But I guess that's what happened, that I just had this
That's okay.
situation happening, so I became aware that I was really attached to a person that did something I didn't like, so my attachment became came up,
I understand.
and then the person came. So I don't know if I should, if it's better in a way to put a person that I have an easier relationship with in that category.
Well, you could. I would strongly recommend though that you just have one person, someone you really love, someone you really like, someone you've got real attachment to, and put them right in front for yourself, and really look after. No, forget the rest. Just do that one. Just do that one. And what your job would be was, can I see the attachment within this loving situation? Can I see the attachment? Because love is not the problem. No. Attachment's the problem. So you need to, at the moment, love and who we like and attachment are like this. It's like one entity.
Yeah.
And you say, well, you know, within that there's attachment. No. But if you really look at it, it will come like this. And you start to see the attachment separate from the love, from the compassion, and from that individual, coming from your side. And that's what you need to find. It's easier to find it with people you dislike, but you need to find it with people that you like. But it's a good point. Well done for noticing. I could go weeks and months without noticing that. What else came up?
We just talked about the yeah, but
Oh yeah,
it can be very difficult to place a stranger because immediately you have an opinion about that stranger. You look at somebody and you have an opinion about is it a nice person or not a nice person. So it can become quite difficult to find somebody that's, what would you say?
all you have to think of is everybody else.
Yeah.
It's not even as if there is some gap between someone becoming your friend, because there was obviously a time when they kind of weren't. And sometimes there's a gap with somebody becoming your enemy. Something happens and it kind of becomes. But everybody else, it's like, it's not that you go, well, I think actually of all the categories, I'll just put you in the string. You don't do this. We don't do this. So basically, it's everybody else. So they're easy. Everybody else.
But it's just so instantaneous that you
Oh,
make,
yes.
you make
Oh,
a
yes.
decision if this person is your
Friend
friend or
or foe.
enemy or
Yeah.
it's
And-
you don't even realize you're doing it.
No, but by doing it, what happens then is you 100% believe it. It's not a flow. It's like, that's the label to my friend. Somebody says, why is she your friend? You go, well, you can see. You know, we see it as concrete and unchanging. We just do. And it just takes that person to do one thing that angers you, that hits that self-cherishing. Boom. They're in the enemy. Because nothing hurts more than a friend who hurts you. You expect the hurt from enemies. You do not expect it from friends, therefore it hurts more. But enemies, people, when I say enemies, maybe too strong, but people you really don't like very much, people at work, people, you know, it just takes one thing for them to do that helps you. And you go, oh my God. And you say to someone, you'll never believe what she, you know, and the next time you meet that person, you're kind of wavering, you know, but you're wavering on the side of them being your friend, you know, and yet before they were categorically, it wasn't just that you labeled them, you 100% believed that label to be true, permanent and concrete. This is why seeing the impermanence of this is very important. And when you meet someone you fall in love with, you could have passed them in the street 1,000,000 times, but it was love at first sight. Really? Yeah. What happened? Lots of things. Mostly it made you feel better. Yes. You see, this is what's at the crux. This is what's at the crux. The self. The cherishing that. The grasping. First of all, we missee things as being solid, me. And so you want things that make that really solid. And you kind of don't want things that affect that. Then the self-cherishing. I am far more important than anybody else. Nobody ever told me that. I just know. It's just one of God's laws. And from that self-cherishing comes self-grasping and aversion. And we create a whole psychological outlook on life. Completely. And the thing is, we're a bright species. We can see that this is ever changing. I mean, who here hasn't had a really close friend that you never see anymore? And you were so close to them, you thought you'd go to your grave next to them. You were that close. Where are they now? You've all got friends who suddenly one day did something, said something to someone, they suddenly became like, oh my God, they're like poison to me. We know this, it happens all the time. And we've all had people that we really didn't like very much. But over time, you've come to cherish them as being your bosom companion. So intellectually, you know this is a fluctuating situation, but that's not how you behave. We believe 100% in those categories, and we see them as permanent, and we see them as true, and all of that is incorrect. All of that is false. If it's false, what's the alternative? Equanimity. What comes from equanimity? Wonderful things, joy, benefits, compassion, more friends than you can cope with. People wanting to be your friends, people wanting to be near you. You'll give off that vibration. People, you can see it with the lamas. I know people that would, they go to extraordinary lengths just to make sure they're sitting next, or spend 5 minutes or doing something. There's something about it. It speaks to the equanimity that's lying dormant within you. You know you can do this. But we're wasting our time at the moment. Just have to stop that. What else came up? What yeah buts? Because you all know someone, don't you? They're always going to be your enemy, aren't they? They're always going to cause you hurt. This person, it's going to be impossible. It's going to be absolutely impossible for this person ever to do me anything good. You don't know me. If you knew my situation at work or in my family or this person, you would not sit there and say this was possible. We all know someone like that. Of course. Yeah, but
We were talking about the attachment again, and that would be the Danish word for it, and because it's, I think the word that we came up with was like a connection.
Yeah, we're speaking in Danish, it's called tip. But in Danish it doesn't sound
But it
as
doesn't have the
negative.
Yeah, it
Sounds positive.
Yeah.
So what's the Danish? Really stuck. Oh, stuck. Yeah, yeah, thing.
It's like the word sounds, or maybe it's because of the teachings in it.
well, maybe a phrase is better than a word if it's in Danish. Think of a phrase.
The thing was just that I felt this but coming up about.
Yeah, of course.
Is it always bad to have a certain connection to someone? Can you
Connection's not a problem.
No.
In fact,
So
more
it's
connection, better.
Yeah.
The more connection, the better.
But not the same as attachment.
Attachment's not the
That's
same.
where we need it.
So attachment, first of all, it comes from, where is its birthplace? This is the thing. Don't see it as something out here. Think of something gave birth to this attachment. What gives birth to this attachment is self-grasping. What gave birth to the self-grasping? Self-cherishing. What gave birth to that? This strong, concrete idea of a separate, concrete, unchanging, permanent self. What gave that? Rise to that? Ignorance. So don't think of it as something out here. It's coming from you, and it's coming from misknowing reality. That's where it's coming from. And this self-cherishing. So attachment is about behaving in a certain way with grasping onto things. Situations, ideas, people, events, because it feeds the self-cherishing. It's sticky. It's messy. It's not clean. You know, if you've got candy floss on your hand, it's like, Now, the opposite of that is behaving to people with love and compassion. And you're helping them because it's wise to help others. Because if you help others, you help yourself. That's coming from wisdom. That's coming from wisdom. His Holiness says if you're going to be, grasping, if you're going to be, what's the word? If you're going to be selfish, be wisely selfish. Practice bodhicitta. The best way to be selfish and to get what you want and you need is to practice bodhicitta. Because you just get feedback immediately. And when you touch these people, when you touch the minds and the events, it's light, it's beneficial, it's healing. It leaves people far better than when you first came. With attachment, there's where it comes from. It's coming from ignorance. But contact with beneficial, with bodhicitta, that comes from wisdom. Yeah. But it's just something to think about. I hadn't considered it would be a different word. So if I were you, I would generate a phrase. So by the end of the day, here's your workshop. Here's your homework. For the end of the day, I want somebody to be able to say to me in English what makes sense in Danish, a statement. Okay? I want a short statement from someone, and I'll point the finger, don't make me point. And that statement will be the Danish equivalent of attachment. Okay? Otherwise you don't get out. What else came up? What else came up? So no threat there then, eh?
So a friend might be boosting apparently some positive attribute, but then it proves later that this is actually not such a good attribute after all.
Well,
Because
again, that's hanging on to the result. Better to look from where the cause was. But it could happen. Friends often, even from a friendly point of view, can cause you harm. They can also save your life. That's not up to you. You can't control that. But you can control where it's coming from. Get back to the real fundamental thing here, the nitty-gritty. Is there anything wrong with having friends? No. Personally, I think the more you have, the better. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. But it makes sense to reduce the attachment. And sometimes that's a better place to start than thinking everybody's got to be my friend. You know, people sometimes go, I'm going to love everybody. Don't you just run a mile? Somebody comes to you like that, you just want to have it. It's that thing. And you're off. There's nothing guaranteed to turn people off more than that. But you don't have to do that. You see, this is the thing. If you reduce your attachment, that will happen anyway. You won't have to put much effort into that. The problem is attachment. So look at what you're really attached to and start to kind of reduce that. Not reducing the love, not reducing the compassion, reduce the attachment. Not easy, but vital. Anything else come up?
We were talking about, like, when there's someone you dislike, and maybe you don't do it because of what they do to you, like apparently not what they do to you, because what you see they do to others.
Yes, yes.
And that's harder. But we
Yes.
actually talk about if that has some kind of
It's interesting. That's very
because you don't like how they make you feel.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand that. I had a friend who came to me and said that we were chatting away, and she said, "You know, Mary, I don't get angry for myself." I said, "That's very good." She said, "But I get angry for other people." Okay, right. How does that work? I mean, I know how it works, because I've been there, right? But I asked her to explain. Well, for myself, I don't care, right? I can handle it. But look what they're doing to other people, men, women, children. I'm angry on their behalf. So, right. You see, that's kind of like a righteous anger. You know, that kind of righteous anger. It's very Judeo-Christian though. But it's second-hand anger. Anger is the most destructive thing you can do to your mind. There's nothing more destructive than anger. So you decide that you're going to be angry on behalf of other people. I know why we do these things, but it makes no sense. If you shine the light of wisdom on that, that makes no sense. It really doesn't. Righteous anger is the worst anger to deal with. Why? Because we fool ourselves. When we are angry, you can see it. You can't hide it. There are people who think they can. You know how they're speaking to you like this? And yes, I quite understand. And you know, you can see it, can't you? They're trying to hide it. They can't. You can't hide it from other people, and you can't hide it from yourself, right? So we displace it. We decide we'll be angry on behalf of other people. Now, we're not making a gross choice. We're not making an obvious choice, but it is a choice. And the choice is not whether to be angry or not. You kind of like anger. It's useful. This is what people say. It's very useful anger. I'm going, really? But I'm going to be angry on their behalf because they can't be angry. I'm going to be an advocate for these people with a strong negative emotion, which is going to destroy everything positive on my mind stream. How do I know it's going to do that? Because I don't feel good after it. When you're angry, whether it's on your behalf of other people, you don't feel good. You really don't. You feel exhausted. You're just exhausted. You can even give yourself a headache. Your body suffers. Very few people get angry and go, glad I did that. I feel fantastic. No, the opposite is true. So don't do it on behalf of other people. Find something else. Do something else. And that other thing is, learn how to do it. If you have bodhicitta in your heart and you've practiced all the different methodologies, pity we don't have the tip. Anyway, if we did, then whatever's happening in the situation, you're not powerless. See, this is the problem. We think we're powerless. And what happens to people who feel they're powerless, they either give up totally or they get very, very angry. What we can't do, what we cannot afford to do is give up, and we cannot afford to get angry. What bodhicitta teaches you and gives you, it gives you all the equipment, mental equipment, and able to deal with whatever situation comes. I mean, one of the most powerful practices you can learn is Tonglen. I don't care if you're listening to the radio, watching the television, you feel you're not powerless. At that moment, there's a Tonglen practice you can do. You don't have to close your eyes, you don't have to sit in a funny position, just do it. Use it. Learn the methods. What did I say yesterday? The methods are available. Use them. Don't use the old methods. The old methods only hurt you. So my friend who gets angry on behalf of other people, she doesn't do it as much now, she does. But she's got a very soft heart. I mean, really, she's one of these very generous people. You know, you can see her suffering for other people. And I love it when she tells me off, because then I can turn and say to her, yes, but you need some wisdom. Because compassion without wisdom is bondage. You need both. Anything else come up?
Yes, there's a teaching that our enemies are our greatest, should be valued as our greatest teachers, above all others.
Oh dear. Well, they do say that. That's true. Yeah.
Because the teaching us something about ourselves which we're not recognizing or willing to address.
If you decide this is the path for you, the bodhicitta path, and there's certain things you do. You decide, okay, I can't do this very well, but really not much else worth doing. Not in this lifetime. So I allow superior intention to grow, and I take the bodhisattva vows. That would be interesting to do something on the bodhisattva vows. Anyway, I keep thinking of things, but anyway, so you take the bodhisattva vows, right? And once you do that, you walk a path called the 6 paramitas. 6 paramitas. The 6 perfections. The 6 perfections. One of the perfections, generosity, yes. To be generous, you need people, really. Just need people. Just everybody, really. But patience will get you so far along the path. Patience. The perfection of patience is so valuable, there isn't an amount you can put on it. That valuable. You don't learn patience with your friends. Your friends will not generate 1 ounce of patience in you. No. Sometimes, but really not. How do you develop patience? By people who annoy the socks off you. That's the challenge. People who annoy the socks off you. People who work against you, who talk behind your back. These people are so valuable. You should be buying them presents every moment you see them. These people are so valuable. They become, really, no wonder they think the Dharma is a wee bit crazy. But actually, these are the people you should be valuing above all others. If you're on the Bodhisattva path, if someone came in here, right now, and went, see you, you're this, that, and the next thing, I'm going to go, oh, I wish that person would go away, you know. Other people might be kind of a bit tolerant to a certain stage, yeah? A Bodhisattva, oh, come in, sit down. Which part didn't you like? Oh, right, no, you're quite right. This person's not changed, but the Bodhisattva attitude. If someone is behaving like that, here is a perfect time to learn patience. And patience is too valuable. This person, so valuable. You've heard of the 8 verses of thought transformation.
That's where it comes from.
Okay. So there's a verse that says, when out of envy others treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and the like, may I behold them as my precious teacher. Is this person mad or what? No. Who else is going to teach you patience? Your best friend? Good luck. These 8 verses of thought transformation were actually composed by an 11th century, very high-level bodhisattva called Geshe Langri Tampa. And he was a very humble, very high-level bodhisattva, very humble, very poor, had thousands of students, I mean, really very well thought of. He was a student of Geshe Patawa, and he was a disciple of Lama Atisha. And his nickname, and the reason I'm saying this to you now, because I said to you that people with equanimity and things, they tend to be sparkly. Okay, can I just say not always? Because it's just what I've noticed. Geshe Langri Tampa was one of the highest level bodhisattvas of his generation. And his nickname was Grim Face. That was his nickname, Grim Face. Because he always had a face that was like, because he was always remembering the suffering of others. I don't think he was very twinkly or smiley, but had high level bodhicitta, complete equanimity, very humble, no problem, thousands of students. One day, and he developed these 8 verses of thought transformation, which really, I mean, you can get it on an app on your iPhone, but it's a wonderful teaching to get. I mean, it's just, anyway, one day he's in class and he's got all these students around him and he's teaching, right? He's teaching. In the village where he was teaching, does everybody know this story? In the village he was teaching, there was this woman, young woman, and she'd had a baby, and the baby was not very well at all. In fact, the baby, she went to a village wise woman who told the baby was dying, and said the only way that child would survive is if she came under the constant care of a very high level bodhisattva. Now, being a mother, there was nothing this woman would do to make sure that her daughter survived. I think it was a daughter, I'm not sure. They never really say. I like to think it was a daughter. Anyway, she thought, well, the only one I know and I can get to is Geshe Langri Tampa, who's he's a monk, high level bodhisattva. So she walked, and you've got to understand that women's level in Tibet was not high. Right? She walked into this room where all the teachings were taking place. She marched right through the monks with her baby and just gave the baby to Geshe Langri Tampa in his lap. And she said to him, "This is your child. You look after it." And she turned around and walked out, right? Well, can you imagine what the monks were thinking? Right? And they're going, Geshe Langri Tampa had taken the baby, kuchu, and continued with his teaching. Never changed, just kept teaching. Well, you can imagine what happened to his reputation, right? Didn't bother him one bit, kept teaching. Whoever turned up, he taught. For 2 years, he looked after that child. For 2 years, he continued doing what he always did. the end of 2 years, this child was much better. The woman had been keeping an eye on this, saw that her child was better, middle of teachings, walks in 2 years later and says, "Give me back my baby." Geshe Langri Tapa went, "Kuchi kuchi ku," gave the baby back and continued his teaching. Now that's what I call equitable. I thought I'd put that in there because they're not always twinkly. Okay. So now we'll have lunch and an hour and a half, so see you back at 2. Okay. Thank you very much for this moment. Thank you. Do appreciate it.
Take for lunch. There's some more of that.